Welcome to Milestone3 for my improved flashcard application. I'm Miles Shipman, and I can't wait to show you the work that I've completed over the last 2 weeks. So I've loaded a fresh load onto my phone. At the top you see an options scroll. It goes sideways, it gives us our about area, our settings, our create option, and finally our decks option. Below that we have a list of recent decks. However, since this is a fresh load, this is currently not loaded. There's no decks to interact with. As you can see from the last upgrade, I've started going into button shapes, adding shading, and a few other artistic details to make the app more detailed. If we continue on and go into the decks option, you'll see that there is no deck. Currently, this create new deck button does not function. I can interact with it, but does not take me to the next screen. However, if I go back and go to the create on the home screen, I'm given the option to create a new deck. For this, we're going to go ahead and create our new deck. We're going to call it Demo 1. And it's going to be a short demo of application. And we're going to make a subject for right now, demo. This hopefully will autofill with existing subjects. This will speed up the process later. For right now, we have only 2 languages available, English. I'm currently using Tesseract OCR for image processing, and that library is only English. I will go into more detail later with the flaws and advantages of that Tesseract OCR, but for now we're just going to worry about English, and then we're going to go to Start. From here we have the option to create manual cards or create automatic cards. As I showed in a previous demo, the ability to create manual cards is pretty much just a manual interfacing with the system. I do notice that the buttons need to be made bigger and other small details. However, that is coming in later builds. Now, if we go into the new features, we're going to create an automatic deck, or automatically created deck. Let's go to create auto. We can take a picture, or we can go ahead and create existing. I already have a photo on my phone, so we're going to go to create existing. We're going to scroll down, go down to here, and we're going to pick up this photo. Now, it does take some time to process. This is one of the downsides to using Tesseract on the phone and some of this other intelligent manipulations. But as you can see, it doesn't take too long before it takes me back to home screen saying it's done. Here, what needs to happen is I do need to implement a refresh functionality to refresh this recent decks with the new deck, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to go to decks and see the new deck available. Now that we're on the deck screen, we can go ahead and select our demo 1 that we just created, and we can see the basic layout for the deck homepage. I can go to edit, and I can have the ability to edit these words. Or I can go ahead and go to study, and I can see the flashcards in front of me created from that photo. I will include the photo with a link so that people can see what was actually put in as input. Now, there is a bit of a downside to this application as it currently stands. My deck functionality doesn't always line up, so when I flip it out, not necessarily the correct word is placed with it, as we can tell. Eventually it will clean itself up and it will be correct for that word, but it does not necessarily work from time to time. I also need to reformat the text fields to make sure that we do not flow over the flashcard like we currently are. These are small fixes that I'm hoping to get implemented in the next week or 2. But as you can see, the automatic creation actually works from the image side, which is a big plus. Now, if we look down, we have 4 quiz capabilities using the Lightner system. And I'll go ahead and show you one before I explain the Lightner system. Let's go to multiple choice questions. So they pop up with the definition, and they ask us for the word, and we can select. I've not really studied these words clearly enough, so I don't know if I'm putting the right answers in or not at the current moment. Eventually, a little X or check will pop up in between each question to signify to the user that, hey, you got it right, or hey, you got it wrong. But, we completed. I did miserably, and I have, obviously got 1 out of 5. Did miserably, so we'll hit OK, and we'll kick it back. And that will actually update the Lightner system built into the demo. So some of you may be asking, what is the Lightner system? The Lightner system is a study technique designed for flashcards that utilizes 5 or more or so boxes. The user at initial study time places all their flashcards into box 1, and as they answer questions correctly, they move it up a box, or as they answer them incorrectly, they go down a box. This provides a hierarchy of must studies for the user, so anything in the lower boxes is something they need to study and need to focus on, while the higher boxes can be more of a reminder of the words that they do know. To utilize the Lightner system in this application, 3 things can happen. The user can answer the question incorrectly, which automatically migrates the flashcard to a lower box. Or the user can answer the question correctly, one of 2 possibilities occurring. If the user answers it within an appropriate amount of time, the flashcard moves to a higher box. If they answer with an inappropriate amount of time, or about 15% tolerance over the average time it takes to answer, then the answer is moved to a lower box. This ensures that even if you get a word correctly, but it takes you longer than it should, the app knows that you need to focus on that word more. It's great finally seeing many elements of my project come together and interact with each other. For future work, however, I still have a lot of work to do. I need to fix a lot of those bugs that were mentioned throughout the presentation. I need to create the other 3 quizzes so that we can keep adding to the educational experience, and then we provide other ways that the user can learn. I need to provide the ability to show improvement to the user. I'm collecting the Lightner data and all this other average time data, but I'm not showcasing it to the user. I need to figure out a way to compile that in a view graph that actually helps the user understand where they need to improve. Finally, I need to move Tesseract off the phone and move it to a standalone server. As I mentioned prior, I only have the English vocabulary and understanding added to Tesseract at the moment. This is because these libraries are very large and very process heavy, not great for a mobile environment. To counteract this, I'm going to move them to a remote server, and I'm going to have the application send the file over the server and the data come back to the phone. This may not occur in time for the final project, but will be implemented before this application gets released to the general public. This concludes my presentation for Milestone3. As you can see, I've completed a lot of work in my application, and I've proven a lot of the concepts that I discussed within my proposal. What remains is for me to continue linking these concepts together and provide a final product that can be enjoyed by all students around the world. Granted, this may not happen in time for the final projects to be turned in, but I eventually plan on having a fine, polished product released to the world.